So with me this morning is Sara Stephens, who is actually the founder of Therapy Works, and we're going to talk a little bit about feeding therapy. So Sara, good morning.
Hi, how are
Thank you for joining us
Thanks
here
for having
again
me.
and sharing every week, sending people here to give us all the information on the various services that is offered and the areas that it covers.
Yeah.
So this morning, so over the time we have heard about occupational therapy, speech therapy, among some others, and amongst those was feeding therapy. Tell me a little bit about what feeding therapy is.
Sure. I'm an occupational therapist, and feeding therapy is kind of an advanced practice area that we've started to see more and more kids in. We see kids who struggle with eating in feeding therapy, and they struggle with eating due to either a sensory processing difficulty, oral motor problems, or developmental issue. And when I say it's because of a sensory issue, it might be that their brain is misfiring, it's sending the wrong message. So when a child bites into it, you bite into a Crix cracker,
Right.
and it kind of breaks apart your mouth, and then it quickly dissolves and you swallow it.
Right.
Our kids, when they bite into that cracker, it might feel like there's shards of glass in their mouth. And
Really?
so their brain is saying, don't eat that, it's dangerous.
Do you know what causes that?
It's the whole brain's understanding of how sensory processing works, and it's just that there's not a damage in the brain, but the wiring has gotten mixed up. It's similar to how we have kids who come with oral motor issues, and the wiring again has been mixed up, sending to the messages to the brain, back to the mouth. So the messages come to the mouth, and the mouth doesn't know how to manage food in the mouth, so they don't know how to move the tongue. Sometimes you clear the side of your mouth with your tongue,
Right.
or chew and swallow. So that's one of the challenges that kids, when they come to us with sensory issues and feeding issues. And a lot of times, by the time they come to us, the parents are quite distraught. I mean, the kids are eating 5 to 10 foods, and that's it. So really,
5 to 10 foods.
yeah, and that's that. They come and I say list the foods, and we finish about 30 seconds later because that's all they eat.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
a big
that's-
challenge.
Yeah, that seems like it would be a challenge. And feeding is something that seems so everyday, so regular.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the things that you encounter with feeding therapy?
Well, the tricky thing, we think feeding's so easy. It's something we just take for granted, but actually eating is the most complicated physical activity of our body. It takes all of our sensory systems. Just to swallow, you think swallowing, we take it for granted. It involves 26 muscles and 6 cranial nerves all working together to elicit a swallow. And with feeding, a lot of times you think you put food on your fork, you put it in your mouth, you chew and you swallow. But really eating there's 26 different steps to eating, even just being in the room with food, that sort of thing. So it's really a complex task that our kids really do struggle with when we see these problem eaters.
You said problem eaters. That is a important phrase there. That sounds like a technical term. Mm-hmm. What's the diet like of the problem eaters?
So the difference between, a lot of people say their child is a picky eater, and picky eaters are, we don't like to eat certain foods, but we work with problem eaters, and there's a big difference. So a problem eater is someone who eats 20 or fewer foods, where a picky eater eats 30 or more foods. A diet of a problem eater that comes to us, I had a little guy who came and he ate Morning O's, the cereal brand, and holiday snacks, and another kiddo who came as a problem eater. And because of the oral motor issues, all he could do was drink bottles of tea. He was 4 years old, and he had about 7 to 8 bottles of tea a day and nothing else.
Really?
And anytime you brought anything else to him, because his brain didn't know how to manage the food, he would fight and scream. His parents tried everything, but they just weren't able to get him to eat anything except the bottle of tea as cereal. So
All right.
it's a lot.
And final question: Are there like a number of feeding therapists in Trinidad that parents or teachers or whoever can access to send children to who are problem eaters?
Yeah, you can look online. I mean, it's an advanced practice area, so it's not every occupational therapist does it. One of the benefits at our work is we have occupational therapists and speech therapists who work on the oral motor side of things. But you want to find someone who knows the steps that you take, because it's a very systematic approach, and you do need that specialized intervention, because we work weekly with parents in therapy, and then we give them specialized techniques to continue to work at home. So you want to look for someone who has that skill set, but can work with the families, because the parents come to us stressed out and frustrated because when you don't eat, it's a really big deal.
Yeah, definitely a big deal. Well, Sara, thank you so much for sharing with me this morning. That's very interesting stuff on feeding therapy.